see how do we start this?
I'll just start it up.
You want to start it out?
Yeah, I can start it. We are gathered here to talk to Mayor Young and Dan Sweat concerning the West End Development Assistance Team study that we're about to prepare to get to work on. And would like to just hear some insight as far as these two gentlemen, what they see as far as West End, and especially Mayor Young, in that he's just come back from a far-reaching trip abroad and has a lot of insight relevant to various development opportunities. And Mayor, what do you see as far as West End is concerned for your insight?
Let me put it in perspective. I think everybody agrees that Atlanta's metropolitan area is going to grow from 2 million to approximately 4 million somewhere around the year 2010. That means there's going to be a doubling of the population of the area. In the conference that I attended in Switzerland, the economists there were predicting that in order to balance the world's economies a little bit, that the U.S. is not going to be able to continue to survive with a $170 billion trade deficit. And so there will be a continual lowering of the dollar that will force more business to come to the U.S. In order to succeed. And that will be a shift of as many as 4 million jobs from Europe and Asia into the U.S. marketplace. Well, right now, Atlanta is the fastest growing region, and particularly we're well set to attract this kind of international expansion. Our governors have been working on it back since Governor Lester Maddox. And Jimmy Carter and George Busby and Joe Frank Harris have worked so that we're fairly well known in those regions. So I think if I sound crazy, it's because I think we've got to think about this being a city twice its size, with twice the need for housing, and with twice the jobs being provided, with us doing little or nothing. The only question is, for us, is can we maintain the quality of life that we have here? I think the infrastructure we have, the airport, the highways, the presence of Coca-Cola, IBM, and Coca-Cola is the most successful international exporter. So when companies begin to look at this direction, they see a successful city. Now, in that context, and given the fact that RJR Nabisco has just decided on its own, without much encouragement from us at all, to move their headquarters here, that makes them the largest of the Fortune 500 companies here. I think we need to see West End as a potential area that could do in the next 20 years what Midtown has done in the last 20 years. And it has advantages over Midtown. This is the first thing you get to when you come in on the MARTA line from the airport. It's anchored already by Fort McPherson to the south and by the Atlanta University complex to the north. And both of those institutions are going to be there for another 50 years. So that the stability, the two anchors are already there. But they haven't had much to do with each other. We're talking about developing an area that's 10 minutes from the airport and 5 minutes from downtown, 10 minutes from Midtown, 15 minutes from Lenox Square, all directly on the mass transit line. So I think my first choice would be that we find a way to get RJR Nabisco to build a massive corporate headquarters. If they're going to be the biggest corporation in town, they ought to have a building bigger than Georgia Pacific. And we've got 50 acres right there around that MARTA station that would be available for that, which incidentally is right next to their present Nabisco plant. And so that's a long shot, but it's no longer shot than 6 months ago. I would have said it was a long shot that we get another major corporation moved to Atlanta within 6 months. I couldn't conceive of that in 6 months, and yet it's happened. If they can be interested, and I plan to talk with them, I think that's would be my first choice. Apart from that, I think some kind of housing development. Now, Herman Russell has developed McGill Place, and those are running from 150,000 up, 150 down. But they're selling as fast as you can build them, and interestingly enough, the makeup of the purchases is about 65% white at present. So that I think it is possible, if you're building high-quality housing, to have multiracial housing. And so I've been holding out for somebody that might be able to assure the kind of development that would have those amenities of tennis courts and health clubs and security that would make that area attractive to people regardless of race, creed, or color. Now, I think the needs, the commercial, retail needs, some of the highest per capita income in the city is in West End. There is money there, and people with very small stores are doing very high volume, and I think that area could use additional retail space. But again, it hopefully would be well-designed retail space that would coordinate what you have now with the existing community, with the West End Mall, and with the new developments that I hope will go around the MARTA station.
You know, you're touching on some of the key issues that I hope that we can move toward getting a step further down the line as far as direction in the West End, the South Side. Let me just say that I'm absolutely sold on this type planning process. I think what happened in the process that city and CAP conducted on International Boulevard and then in the upper downtown area with the housing urban design assistant team helped move us forward in a 3 or 4 giant steps. And I just want to say we greatly appreciate the leadership that you and the city has given in these efforts. And I think we always sort of hold on our seats, you know, when you come before the group to share your ideas and visions. But I think when you at the international event, when you threw out the 10,000 housing units, several people swallowed hard, and but the more we looked into that, the more it was accepted, and now that followed through with the Houdat in upper downtown, and we're seeing that's sort of a given. I mean, people said that's a goal. That's not an unrealistic goal, and we're seeing more activity, more interest than we've ever seen. West End, I think, is absolutely crucial to the community. It's crucial to the immediate downtown that we're trying to make sure we anchor and keep anchored. That whatever happens in West End, that it's the right approach, and that we get moving forward now. And I guess that's why the issues that concern me is, yes, housing. I think we need to push housing. Jobs. We need jobs in West End. You take the 50 acres. Should we pursue, say, the Wade Burns proposal, which would produce probably 1,000 long-term jobs, that might be more realistically in the short term and move forward, or can we afford to wait, or should we wait on the longer term unknown in order to try to get housing on that site? Retail, I think some of the questions that Oscar and our professional experts came up with in preparing for the WEDAT, the whole question of what kind of retail, what kind of shopping area. You're right, it's one of the healthiest shopping areas around. It's more of a neighborhood shopping center now. Should we retain a neighborhood shopping flavor? If we pursue the course that you're suggesting, I suspect it would become much more than just a neighborhood shopping center. But these are some of the key issues.
You know, I'd like to see the two things coexist. I think that the present West End Mall has given a lot of new, particularly minority entrepreneurs, an opportunity to get a toehold in the marketplace. And they're doing quite well. It's not a low-quality area. It's a pretty good price range. They don't yet have the respectability. What I think we need is some of the people who, we'll say like Jackie's in International, who's downtown in Peachtree Center. I'd like to see Jackie's with a store. She's got a store in the Galleria and in Peachtree Center. I wish Jackie's also had a store in West End, where West End, Peachtree Center, and the Galleria all were linked together conceptually. And people knew that they were getting the same kind of quality in West End that they were getting in the Galleria or in Peachtree Center. And I hate to put that burden on Jackie, but that's the concept that I think we're going to need to give people a sense of the fact that they don't have to get in their cars and drive way out to the perimeter to buy high-quality merchandise, that they can buy that in West End. I think the improvements that are going on in the Riches store and the presence of Underground is all going to contribute to a perceptual shift further south. I mean, it does anchor downtown in a way. The city's buildings at Garnett Street Station. And I don't think it's out of the question to see something happening at Garnett Street. In fact, I think that's a part of what we're seeing. So really, you're talking one subway stop, one MARTA stop south of, well, 2 MARTA stops from 5 Points. And that's exactly where Midtown is north. We are south. Now, when I was first interested in politics as part of the Community Relations Commission, Sam Massell's problem and Dan Sweat's problem as the CAO was really cleaning the bums out of Midtown. And now, that hadn't been 20 years. That's just 15 years ago.
Be careful about talking about those bums. Some of them are our finest citizens.
But so I think that just as nobody in 1970 could conceive of what Midtown has now become, I think we've got to realize that just as Midtown has become the headquarters of Bell South, IBM, AT&T in 15 years, that in the next 15 years, Atlanta's going to be growing faster than it has the last 15 years. So conceivably, what happened in Midtown in 15 years can happen in West End in 7 to 10 years. Now, if that's true, this kind of planning is right on time. And with the HUDAT, we started talking, I was talking about 2 pieces of property at the beginning of the HUDAT. By the time they got through, they had identified almost 80 acres. And it's prime residential land, and I understand we've got buyers that are just waiting for us to package the property and move it. If the WEDAT can give us that kind of perception of West End, I think you will have done a tremendous favor to the West End neighborhood and to the entire city.
One of the things that we found in the initial probe into West End, looking at its financial base, economic base, that sort of thing, was that basically the economics relevant to the retail area, the volume that those people are getting per square foot of sales is above the national norm, and that people perceive the area as a low-income area. And like you say, there's a vast amount of people that are around that area that are not low income that could be drawn in to that particular area.
You know, if you think of Fort McPherson, which is the Second Army headquarters, all the U.S. forces in the Western Hemisphere are commanded from Fort McPherson. And as long as Sam Nunn is the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, that's going to be there and it's going to grow. And that's a long time to come. That's a permanent decision. They're putting up permanent buildings out there now, but they're not putting up any housing. So that I think that, but I don't know whether we have any estimate of the amount of money that Fort McPherson means to that region. Right now, it doesn't relate to the region. If there could be 200 to 400 units of housing for captains and majors and colonels right there in West End, related where they'd be walking distance from where they work, then I think that would bring another $10, $20 million of spending power into that community. Right now, the faculty from Atlanta University, Clark, Morehouse, Morris Brown, live all over the city. And Atlanta's a perfect place to buy a home. But with the new faculty coming in, if there were middle-income condominiums there, instead of moving way out in Heritage Valley somewhere, they would live right there near where they work. So I've always contended that there's a market for about 1,000 units of middle and upper income housing right there in West End at that MARTA station.
Which comes first? I'd like to kind of, does the retail come first or housing?
No, I think the housing comes first for me, because I think the money's already there. I think the jobs at Fort McPherson are there, but the people live way up in Marietta or way out down in Fayette County. They live where, the military coming in here with a captain to major salary has to buy a house quickly. And where they buy their homes have been where the new developments are. So they're all living, a half hour more from where they work. If they had the choice of living 5 minutes from where they work, I think military families are perfect, anchor for a residential community there. I think we might be able to enter into a contract with Fort McPherson to do a kind of advance lease on a couple of hundred units that they might keep for their purposes. The Atlanta University complex also has housing problems for faculty. Georgia State has housing problems. When I think of the new IBM and AT&T and Bell South employees, kind of people who travel all the time, what better residential location than 10 minutes from the airport and 5 minutes from work, or 10 minutes from work and 10 minutes from the airport on the MARTA line? That's a perfect residential location for people from IBM. We have 40,000 employees at the airport, and there's a tremendous turnover in particularly in the flight attendant population. Flight attendants, I come in on these planes late at night and I say, how long does it take you to get home? Almost everybody I talk to lives way up above Marietta. If they could get on a MARTA station, and they're driving cars, if they could get on a subway stop inside the airport and be home in 10 minutes, you can't convince me that there aren't 500 to 1,000 flight attendants based in Atlanta that would like to live in a high-quality residential environment 10 minutes from the airport. So,
looking at some other factors, when you say that, location and so forth, say, great. Now, why hasn't it happened? There it sits right there, better location, accessibility-wise than Midtown, everything's happened, so why? I wonder, let me ask Oscar, I know that your team has looked at, had some of the involvement from the college university complex there, which is, as the mayor's pointed out, is a tremendous resource, potentially far greater than's ever been tapped. It's right there. On the Fort McPherson thing, I wonder how much y'all have considered the impact of Fort Mac sitting on the other end.
When we did that initial probe, that wasn't brought up, but that's an excellent
I
point.
think that's one thing we need to crank into this whole process. And secondly, talking about, and we always look at, okay, why isn't it happening? Here it sits there. When we go back in any survey we do, like we did at the CAP annual breakfast a year ago, public safety and housing, come out on top. Transportation always comes up pretty high. Transportation, traffic, we're in pretty good shape there.
Very good.
We don't have to build any great expressways or anything else. Those are being done or have been done. Marta's sitting right there. Housing, the mayor's talked about housing. What have you found out about public safety, either real or perceived, that might be a hindrance to what we're talking about?
Well, in the area of public safety relevant to West End is perceived as a low-income, black area. So therefore relevant to investments, upgrades, retail, and all that sort of thing. It's sort of not looked in a positive way. Then you're talking about having people that have higher income that you want them to live there, and they perceive it a certain way. They don't want to particularly go there. That is the general perception. I'm just saying what the perception is. Now I'd like to find out from you gentlemen.
Let me just say that when my daughter moved back here from California and started looking for a house, I mean, she's got a good job at IBM. We looked in every neighborhood, looking at the houses. The kind of house she bought in West End cost twice as much. It was $150,000 to $175,000 in Candler Park. It was, $85,000 to $125,000 in Grant Park. Say, in Virginia Highland, they were all up close to $200,000. That same kind of house, say, was less than $75,000 in West End, well, she's about 3 blocks from that MARTA station. And I don't know, I mean, we feel quite secure. If you're protective about anybody, it's your daughters. Yeah. We have felt very comfortable with her living there alone. And she feels very comfortable moving in and out around that neighborhood. I raised 3 daughters in this town, and we've never put leashes on them. They were not looking for trouble, but they go anywhere they want to go and do anything they want to do, and because they know their way around, I knock on wood, we've never had an incident in all of the years that they have been moving around. And my wife is the same way. I'm out of town a lot, and she never hesitates to go anywhere. And part of it is the fear. If you're afraid of downtown, say, or if you're afraid of something. But now what I'm talking about is designing a community, and the new condominiums in West End give you a feeling of neighborhood. I've been very impressed with, was it David Gibson? And I don't know who did those, and he was involved originally, but Pete Haley and young developers that were developing small units. I think that if you just let them alone and did nothing, that there'll be a gradual middle-income development over the years. But the only reason they haven't been able to do more is they can't get money. And the reason I think that this kind of WEDAT is important is that it says to the financial community that there's a bigger vision here than they have been able to see. There's more security. There's more economic security, and there's more physical security here than you have imagined. See? And that this is a good place to put large amounts of money. When I say large amounts of money, I'm thinking in $100 million up scale projects. And I don't know who we can get to do that, but we need one major investment of that sort somewhere in West End, and immediately. We need somebody to do in West End what Jim Cushman did in Midtown. he believed he lost money. But I think that it wasn't his design or development. It was the price of oil and international factors that I think forced him into economic trouble. There was nothing wrong with his planning, his location, his conception of Colony Square. And I think history has proven him to be way ahead of his time. If it hadn't been for the price of oil rising from about $4 a barrel almost up to $40 a barrel, he wouldn't have had those kinds of problems there. I think we're looking at the economy moving the other way now. We're moving at the economy moving toward Atlanta, where 600 chief executives and real estate vice presidents pick this as one of the fastest growing regions, one of the best regions to locate a business, a region where business is going to do well even if the economy goes down.
Okay, so we agree on that West End has tremendous potential, and you talked about the companies that's going to come in here, the protection from Japan and Europe. Because of the factors you've stated, we've sort of overcome this hostility toward the South in general. Businesses moving south, and I suspect the majority of those jobs that you're talking about coming in, and investment will come to the Sun Belt, to the south. Atlanta's a magnet. So now we got them in here. Now, how do we get them south of 5 Points? And I think that's our big job.
One thing to get them south of 5 Points is publish that there is a south of 5 Points.
And so what do we have to do as far as the public policy, primarily from City Hall, and then what can we do as a business community working with City Hall? How do we sell it? How do we package it? How do we clean up what needs to be cleaned up? Where do we go from here? You're right. You had Jim Cushman, Colony Square, and that did show guts and courage and provided the emphasis. But then the High Museum, the Woodruff Art Center, really was the thing I really think that then brought everybody else in there. You've thrown out some good suggestions, but
let me throw out one thing because I want to get this on. There are strategies. One is to bring in the big developer, and that's going to get something to go on. And there's another strategy that the big developer will come at some particular point. But what can we do initially to get things going, to get it upgraded, to get a place that will attract people, that sort of thing, and then the big developer. So it can be working simultaneously. How do you, I'd be interested in the first steps, take away the big developer.
Well, let's say we've got this process going. I think this process should give the financial community a little more confidence to let the existing developers in there expand what they're doing. Right. There was no big developer in Grant Park. There was no big developer in Candler Park or in Virginia Highlands. Those were a lot of people who developed their own neighborhood. I think the financial community needs to see the potential that we see in West End and let the existing developers, the existing stores, the existing shops expand. The city can do what we did for Little 5 Points with that West End corridor, with the Merchants Cooperation. But I still insist that we've got to not just think about the big developer. We've got to think about the big potential. I don't just see West End as a problem. I see West End right on to the stadium down Georgia Avenue as some of the most valuable land in the city. Right now, it's probably the worst slum. I see West End as the gateway from the south. I see what the city is doing with industrial parks. One of the things I think we need to look at is an industrial park somewhere just south of West End, down Stewart Avenue maybe, below Atlanta Junior College, where we can set aside some land for business development like we're doing at the Airport Industrial Park and on Bankhead Highway. In a meeting we had in Switzerland, 3 people came up and said they were interested in taking a look at Atlanta. One of them was it's an IBM-sized corporation from Europe, high-tech sort of operation. that says it's already made a decision to open an American headquarters and was very interested in looking at Atlanta where. I think that those are the kind of people that won't see the past, well, for one thing, land is now too expensive. Given a choice of land, $1.5 million an acre on the north side of town, and land 30 to 50,000 an acre south toward the airport, I think we're going to be able to push people in that corridor between West End and the airport, so that as new developments come in there, particularly people who are building, putting sizable plants and sizable offices, I think we're going to see that the housing potential and residential potential of West End is already present and is going to grow much more rapidly than we're able to dream right now.
Fantastic. Mr. Mayor, thank you very, very much for your insight into the potential of West End. Dan Sweat, thank you very, very much. We look forward to an exciting workshop session, and hopefully you both join in. Thank you very much.